She was a homeless woman who could barely afford food. He was a mafia boss whose daughter had hours to live. When his men dragged her off the street, she had one chance to prove her innocence, by doing the impossible. What she didn't know. Saving his daughter would change everything, including the deal she made that no one dared to make with him before. The crystal chandelier above Valeria Moretti's head cost more than most people earned in a lifetime. She didn't care. At 23, she'd grown up surrounded by obscene wealth, and tonight's charity banquet at the Metropolitan Opera Hall was just another performance in the theater of her father's empire. "Smile more," her bodyguard Marco muttered beside her. "You look like you're attending a funeral." "Maybe I am," Valeria whispered back, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. "My own." She wasn't being dramatic. Being Don Aurelio Moretti's daughter meant living behind bulletproof glass, both literally and figuratively. Every friendship was strategic. Every conversation was monitored. Every man who approached her wanted either her father's money or his power. Tonight's event, a fundraiser for the city's children's hospital, was particularly suffocating because it represented everything her family pretended to be: charitable, civic-minded, legitimate. The irony wasn't lost on her that the same hospital her father claimed to support had staff members on his payroll, feeding him information about rival families' injuries and movements. "Ladies and gentlemen," the master of ceremonies announced from the stage, "let's give a warm round of applause to our evening's greatest benefactor, Don Aurelio Moretti." Valeria watched her father rise from their table, his silver hair perfectly groomed, his charcoal suit immaculate. He waved with the practiced humility of a politician, though everyone in this room knew exactly what kind of man he was. The governor was here. So was the police commissioner. Half the city's elite owed him favors, the other half feared him. She lifted her champagne glass, intending to take a sip during the applause. The liquid was the same pale gold as always, bubbles rising steadily to the surface. Nothing seemed wrong. The moment the champagne touched her lips, Valeria tasted something off. Not bitter or metallic, just wrong, like a note played slightly flat in a symphony. She swallowed anyway, not wanting to cause a scene. 30 seconds later, her vision blurred. "Marco," she whispered, gripping the edge of the table. "Some things." The room tilted violently. Faces swam in and out of focus. She tried to stand, but her legs had turned to water. The champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor with a sound that seemed to echo forever. Then she was falling, and the beautiful chandelier above was spinning, spinning, spinning until everything went black. She woke to harsh fluorescent lights and the steady beep of a heart monitor. The opera hall's grandeur had been replaced by cold, sterile medical equipment. Valeria's throat felt like sandpaper, and when she tried to move, her arms were too heavy. "She's awake," someone said urgently. Her father's face appeared above her, and for the first time in her life, Valeria saw genuine fear in Don Aurelio Moretti's eyes. It was more terrifying than anything else that had happened. "Valeria, can you hear me?" His voice was steady, controlled, but his hand trembled slightly as he touched her face. "What happened?" she managed to whisper. A doctor she didn't recognize stepped forward, his expression grim. "Miss Moretti, you've been poisoned. We've run every test available, but we can't identify the toxin. It's nothing we've encountered before." The words didn't make sense at first. Poisoned? Like something from a medieval story or a spy thriller. Not something that happened to real people at charity banquets. "Fix it," her father said quietly. The quiet was worse than shouting. When Don Aurelio Moretti spoke softly, people died. "Sir, we're trying everything, but—" "How long?" her father interrupted. The doctor hesitated. In that pause, Valeria understood she was dying. The knowledge settled over her like a cold blanket. "Best estimate? Less than 24 hours before her organs begin to shut down. The toxin is attacking her nervous system, but it's unlike anything in our database. Without knowing what it is, we can't formulate an antidote." 24 hours. One day, Valeria had always known her life might end violently. A car bomb, a rival's bullet, a kidnapping gone wrong. But she'd never imagined dying slowly in a hospital bed, poisoned by invisible enemies. Who did this? She asked, her voice stronger now. If she was going to die, she wanted to know why. Her father's jaw tightened. We're finding out. Marco appeared at the foot of her bed. His usually stoic face twisted with fury. Boss, we pulled the security footage. There was a woman near the catering station right by your table. Hooded jacket, couldn't see her face clearly. She was there for maybe 90 seconds, then disappeared into the crowd. Find her, Don Aurelio said. Each word was carved from ice. Bring her to me alive. I want to know who hired her, who made the poison, and where we can get the antidote. Already on it. We've got every soldier on the street. If she's still in the city, we'll have her by midnight. Valeria closed her eyes, exhaustion pulling at her despite the fear. Around her, she could hear her father giving orders, his empire mobilizing for war. But beneath the anger and the urgency, she heard something else, desperation. For all his power, all his money, all his connections, Don Aurelio Moretti couldn't save his own daughter. As consciousness began to slip away again, Valeria wondered if the woman in the hooded jacket knew what she'd done. Did she know she hadn't just poisoned a mafia princess? Did she know she'd started a war? And did she know that in less than one day, unless a miracle occurred, the most powerful crime family on the East Coast would burn the entire city down looking for revenge? Don Aurelio Moretti stood in his private study, watching multiple screens displaying security footage from the opera hall. He'd seen men tortured, cities corrupted, empires built and destroyed. But watching his daughter collapse on that ballroom floor was the worst moment of his 62 years. Rewind it again, he ordered. His tech specialist, a nervous young man named Tommy, scrolled back the footage for the 7th time. The angle was from the corner camera, capturing the catering station where servers prepared drinks before circulating through the crowd. There, Tommy pointed. 11:43 p.m. A figure in a dark hooded jacket moved through the frame. Average height, slim build, hands tucked into pockets. The hood obscured most of the face, but the person moved with purpose, weaving between servers with the confidence of someone who belonged. Don Aurelio leaned closer. The figure paused near a tray of champagne glasses, the same tray that had been delivered to his table 2 minutes later. Her hand, he was certain it was a woman now from the way she moved, emerged from her pocket for just a second. Something small dropped into one of the glasses. The movement was so quick, so practiced that if he'd blinked he would have missed it. Then she was gone, disappearing into the crowd of wealthy donors and politicians. Can you get a better angle on her face? Tommy switched between cameras, but in every frame, the hood remained perfectly positioned to hide her features. She knew where the cameras were, boss. This was planned. Run facial recognition on what we can see. Chin, jawline, anything. Already did. No matches in any database. Not police, not FBI, not even our own files. Don Aurelio's phone buzzed. It was Marco. Talk to me. We've locked down every exit from the city, bridges, tunnels, train stations. TSA's on alert at all airports within 200 miles. If she tries to run, we'll catch her. She won't run, Don Aurelio said quietly. Someone this careful doesn't panic. She's either already gone or hiding in plain sight. Got something else. Talk to the catering company. They swear all their staff was accounted for, but one server's uniform went missing from their van during setup. Our girl walked right in wearing their clothes. Professional, patient, precise. This wasn't some amateur hired off the street. This was an expert assassin. Double the reward, Don Aurelio said. $1 million for information leading to her capture. $2 million for bringing her in alive. Within an hour, the entire city's underworld was buzzing. Every informant, every street-level hustler, every desperate soul looking for a payday was hunting for the hooded woman. The Mafia's network spread like a web, touching every corner, every alley, every forgotten space. Ana Reyes was sitting on her usual spot outside St. Michael's Church, a cardboard sign propped against her worn backpack. Homeless vet, anything helps. It was a lie. She'd never served in the military. But people gave more money when they thought you'd fought for your country. She'd collected $14 that evening when the black van screeched to a stop beside her. 3 men poured out before she could even stand. Strong hands grabbed her arms, her backpack, pulling her off the concrete. "Wait, what are you?" "Shut up," one of them growled, shoving a bag over her head. Anna's survival instincts kicked in. She thrashed, trying to remember the self-defense moves she'd learned years ago in nursing school. But these men were professionals. Within seconds she was in the van, zip ties cutting into her wrists. The vehicle lurched forward, tires squealing. "Please," Anna said, forcing her voice to stay calm despite the terror flooding through her. "I think you have the wrong person." 5'6", slim build, dark hair. One of the men read from his phone. Seen on Bedford Street at approximately midnight. Bedford Street. Anna had walked through there an hour ago, heading from the soup kitchen to her sleeping spot. But that didn't mean anything. Hundreds of people walked Bedford Street every day. "What did I do?" she asked. "You tell us." The drive lasted 20 minutes. When they finally pulled the bag off her head, Anna found herself in a basement that looked like something from a nightmare. Concrete walls. A single chair in the center of the room. Chains hanging from exposed pipes. They tied her to the chair. A door opened, and a man in an expensive suit descended the stairs. He had silver hair and eyes like frozen steel. Anna had been homeless for 3 years, living on the streets, but she still recognized power when she saw it. "Do you know who I am?" the man asked. Anna shook her head, though something about his face seemed familiar. She'd seen it before, maybe in a newspaper box or on a discarded magazine. "My name is Aurelio Moretti. You poisoned my daughter tonight at the Metropolitan Opera Hall. You have one chance to tell me where the antidote is, or I will make you wish you'd never been born." Anna's blood ran cold. Moretti. The name alone was enough to make people cross the street. The city's most powerful crime boss. And he thought she'd poisoned his daughter. I wasn't even, Anna's mind raced. "I don't go to opera halls. I'm homeless. I spend my nights trying to find places to sleep where I won't get mugged. Security footage shows a woman matching your description at the scene. Then it wasn't me." Anna's voice rose with desperation. "I've never poisoned anyone. I wouldn't even know how." Moretti studied her with those cold eyes, looking for any sign of deception. Anna met his gaze, letting him see her terror, her confusion, her absolute innocence. "Show her the footage," Moretti said. Someone held up a tablet. Anna watched the hooded figure move through the crowd, saw the moment something dropped into the champagne glass. And then she saw something else, something that made her stomach drop. "Wait," Anna said. "Rewind that. Show me the victim's symptoms again." Don Aurelio's eyes narrowed dangerously. "You don't give orders here." "I'm not," Anna said quickly, her heart hammering against her ribs. "But if you want to save your daughter, you need to listen to me. What symptoms did she show?" "Exactly." Marco stepped forward, his hand moving toward the gun at his waist. "Boss, she's stalling." "No, I'm not." Anna's voice cracked with urgency. "I saw something in that footage. The way the liquid moved when it hit the glass, the timing." She stopped, realizing how insane she sounded. But she'd seen that pattern before years ago in a completely different life. Don Aurelio raised a hand, stopping Marco. "You have 30 seconds. Talk." Anna took a shaky breath. "Your daughter. After she drank, how long before she collapsed?" "Approximately 30 seconds. Vision problems?" Blur doubled. Moretti's expression shifted slightly. "Yes. How did you?" "Loss of motor control? Like her legs just stopped working." "The doctor said her nervous system is being attacked." Don Aurelio leaned forward, And Anna saw something new in his eyes. Not just anger anymore, but a flicker of hope. What do you know? Anna's mind was racing through memories she tried to bury. The pediatric intensive care unit. The small body on the gurney. The frantic calls to toxicology specialists who couldn't arrive in time. It's a synthetic compound, she said. Derived from a modified batrachotoxin. That's a poison found in certain tropical frogs, but engineered to be faster, more lethal. It blocks sodium channels in nerve cells, essentially short-circuiting the body's electrical system. The room went silent. Everyone was staring at her. The conventional tests won't find it, Anna continued, her professional training taking over despite her terror. It's not in any standard database because it's not natural. Someone made it in a lab. The 24-hour timeline is accurate, maybe generous. Without intervention, her respiratory system will fail as the toxin reaches her brainstem. Don Aurelio moved so fast that Anna flinched. But he didn't strike her. Instead, he pulled out his phone and dialed. Put me through to Dr. Chan. Now. Moments later. Chan, I'm putting you on speaker. I have someone here who claims to know what's killing Valeria. A synthetic batrachotoxin derivative. Does that make sense with what you're seeing? A tired voice came through the phone. Where did you get that information? We just got preliminary results back from a specialist in Boston. He suggested it might be an engineered neurotoxin, but we didn't have specifics. Is he right? Moretti interrupted. A pause. If he's correct about the compound, yes, it fits perfectly. Explains why our standard toxicology panels came back negative. But how does he know this? Anna spoke up, her voice steadier now. And I know because I've seen this poison before. 3 years ago, I was a pediatric nurse at Mercy General. We had a case. A 12-year-old boy who'd been used as a test subject by someone developing biological weapons. Same compound, same symptoms. We couldn't save him. The silence that followed felt like a physical weight. Who are you? Don Aurelio asked quietly. Ana Reyes. I worked at Mercy General for 7 years. Specialized in toxicology cases, rare exposures. I was good at my job, her voice caught. Until I wasn't. Marco pulled out his phone, typing rapidly. Boss, I'm pulling up her employment records now. Ana Maria Reyes, registered nurse, terminated 3 years ago. He stopped reading. Says here she was let go for violating protocol during a critical patient case. I tried to save that boy, Ana said, memories flooding back. The parents screaming. The hospital administrator's cold voice. The internal investigation. The antidote existed, but the hospital couldn't authorize the expense without insurance approval. $10,000 for an experimental treatment. I broke into the pharmacy, tried to administer it anyway. By the time I got the dose prepared, it was too late. He died. And I got fired, lost my license, lost everything. She looked directly at Don Aurelio, no longer caring what happened to her. That boy died because the hospital's funding had been cut. And you want to know why their funding was cut? Because someone was extorting them, demanding protection money, bleeding them dry. I found out later who was behind it. She let the accusation hang in the air. Your organization, Mr. Moretti. Your men. So if you want to talk about who's responsible for killing innocent people, maybe you should look in a mirror. Marco's gun was out instantly, pressed against Anna's temple. Say another word. Stand down, Don Aurelio said softly. Boss, she just. I said stand down. Marco holstered his weapon, but his eyes promised violence later. Don Aurelio studied Anna with newfound interest. She saw him processing everything. Her knowledge, her history, her accusation. When he spoke again, his voice was different. Not softer but more calculated. Dr. Chun, he said into the phone. Is she correct about the poison? If this is accurate, yes. This would explain everything we're seeing. Then we need someone who understands this toxin to save my daughter. Don Aurelio's gaze never left Anna's face. You said you've seen this before. That means you know how to treat it. I know the theory, Anna admitted. But that boy died because we didn't have the right resources in time. You'll have every resource in this city at your disposal. It's not that simple. Then make it simple. Save my daughter. Anna looked at the man who'd terrorized her city, whose money had contributed to a child's death, who now held her life in his hands. And she saw a father willing to do anything to save his child. Just like those parents 3 years ago. I have conditions, Anna said. The room erupted. Marco lunged forward, but Don Aurelio held up his hand again. His eyes locked on this homeless woman who'd just done something nobody had done in decades. She tried to negotiate with the devil himself. Marco laughed, a harsh, disbelieving sound. Did she just say conditions? Boss, let me handle this. Everyone out, Don Aurelio said calmly. Except her. Boss. Out. The room emptied within seconds, leaving only Anna tied to the chair and Don Aurelio standing before her. The silence was somehow worse than the threats had been. You have courage, Moretti said finally. Stupidity too, but courage. Let's hear these conditions. Anna's mouth was dry, but she forced herself to speak. First, I need confirmation that you'll actually let me try to save her. Not just torture me for information and then kill me anyway. If you save Valeria, you walk away free. You have my word. The word of a crime boss, Anna said bitterly. The word of a father. Something flickered in his eyes, something almost human. Whatever you think of me, Miss Reyes, I love my daughter more than this empire. If you can save her life, I'll give you anything. Money, protection, a new identity anywhere in the world. Anna believed him. That was the terrifying part. I don't want money, she said. I want Mercy General Hospital left alone. Completely. No more protection rackets, no more extortion, no more bleeding their budget dry. They need to be able to afford life-saving treatments without choosing between paying you or saving patients. The silence stretched out. Don Aurelio walked to the corner of the basement, poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter that seemed absurdly elegant in this brutal space. He took a slow sip, considering. You're asking me to give up a revenue stream worth $2 million annually. I'm asking you to stop contributing to people's deaths. Do you know how many hospitals, businesses, and establishments pay us for protection? He turned to face her. Hundreds. If I make an exception for Mercy General, every one of them will demand the same. My authority depends on consistency. Then be consistently better, Anna shot back. Or let your daughter die. Your choice. It was a massive gamble. Anna had no leverage, no power, nothing but the knowledge in her head. If Don Aurelio decided to torture the information out of her instead, she couldn't stop him. But she'd also read him correctly. He was desperate. Let's say I agree, Moretti said slowly. What guarantee do I have that you'll actually save her? You said yourself the boy died. None, Anna admitted. But I'm the only person in this city who's even seen this poison before. Your doctors are stumbling in the dark. I at least know what we're fighting. Don Aurelio finished his drink, set the glass down with a soft click. If you fail, if my daughter dies, our agreement is void. I'll burn Mercy General to the ground just to make a point about what happens when people try to manipulate me. If I fail, your daughter is dead. I don't think you'll care much about revenge after that. Another long silence. Then, surprisingly, Don Aurelio smiled, not warmly, but with a kind of grim respect. Dr. Chun, he said, pulling out his phone again. We have someone who can help. Prepare a workspace with whatever she needs. He looked at Anna. What do you need? First, I need to examine your daughter. Confirm my diagnosis, check her current condition. Then I need access to detailed information about whoever created this poison. This isn't something you cook up in a basement. It requires serious expertise, lab equipment, rare compounds. We're working on identifying the poisoner. It's not the poisoner I'm worried about, Anna said. It's the chemist who made the toxin. Only a handful of people in the world could engineer something like this. If I can figure out who made it, I might be able to determine the exact formula. And if I know the exact formula, you can create an antidote, Moretti finished. He pulled out a knife and Anna tensed, but he simply cut the zip ties binding her wrists. You have 18 hours now. My daughter's condition is deteriorating. Anna stood on shaky legs, blood rushing back into her hands. There's one more thing. Marco, who'd been waiting outside, chose that moment to re-enter. Boss, we've swept 6 city blocks. Found 3 women matching the general description, but none of them. He stopped, seeing Anna untied. What's happening? She's going to save Valeria, Don Aurelio said. And you're going to help her. Whatever she needs, wherever she needs to go, you provide it. Consider her under my personal protection. Marco's expression was pure disbelief. You're trusting her? She could be the poisoner lying about. If she were the poisoner, she'd have said nothing and watched Valeria die. Instead, she identified a toxin our doctors couldn't find. Moretti turned to Anna. You said there was one more thing. I need my backpack, Anna said. The one your men took when they grabbed me. It has something important. Marco retrieved it, dumping the contents on a table. Few dollars in change. A water bottle. Some protein bars. A worn photograph. And a small battered notebook with water-stained pages. Anna grabbed the notebook, flipping through it carefully. When that boy was dying 3 years ago, I documented everything. Every symptom, every timeline marker, every failed treatment we attempted. I kept these notes because I swore if I ever encountered this poison again, I'd be ready. She looked up at Don Aurelio, and for the first time since being dragged into that van, Anna felt something other than fear. She felt purpose. I failed that child because I didn't have enough time or resources. You're giving me both. So yes, Mr. Moretti, I'll save your daughter. Not for you, but because no one else should die from this poison. Why you keep the notebook all this time? Marco asked suspiciously. You were homeless. You could have sold it, traded it.
Ana simile etsedli.
Because some things are too important to let go. Even when you've lost everything else. Don Aurelio extended his hand. We have a deal, Miss Reyes. Anna shook it, sealing a bargain with the devil. A child's life for a hospital's freedom. Her redemption for his daughter's survival. Now she just had to make sure she could actually deliver. The private medical suite Don Aurelio had set up for Valeria looked more like a luxury hotel room than a hospital. Silk curtains, mahogany furniture, original paintings on the walls. But the heart monitor's steady beep and the 4 drip brought Anna crashing back to reality. This was exactly like 3 years ago. Another young person dying. Another ticking clock. Another chance to fail. Focus, Anna whispered to herself. Valeria lay in the bed, her skin pale, breathing shallow. She was beautiful, dark hair spread across white pillows, delicate features that reminded Anna of Renaissance paintings. And she was dying. Anna pulled on latex gloves and began her examination. Pupil response, sluggish. Heart rate, elevated but irregular. Muscle tone, significantly decreased. She checked Valeria's reflexes, her skin temperature, the color of her nail beds. How bad? Don Aurelio asked from the doorway. Worse than I hoped. The toxin is progressing faster than it did with the boy. Either this is a more concentrated dose, or it's been modified to act more aggressively. Anna pulled out her notebook, comparing symptoms. We have less time than I thought. Maybe 16 hours before the respiratory system starts failing. Dr. Chun, a tired-looking man in his 50s, handed her Valeria's charts. We've been running supportive care, fluids, medications to stabilize her blood pressure. But it's like trying to bail water from a sinking ship. Anna studied the charts, her nursing training flooding back. Felt strange wearing gloves again, reading medical data, being useful. For 3 years she'd been invisible. Just another homeless person people stepped over. Now she held someone's life in her hands again. The antidote we tried to use 3 years ago, Anna said slowly, thinking aloud. It was experimental, designed to bind with the toxin and neutralize it. But we were missing key information. We didn't know the exact chemical structure we were fighting. So what do you need? Moretti pressed. Anna turned to face him. We need to find whoever created this poison. This isn't something you buy on the street. The synthesis requires advanced chemistry knowledge, specialized equipment, and access to controlled substances. There's maybe a dozen people in North America with the skills and resources to make this. Marco, standing guard by the door, spoke up. We've been investigating the rival families. The Castellanos have a chemist on payroll, but he's been dead for 2 months. The Russians usually import their poison from overseas. This was made locally, Anna said with certainty. The compound degrades too quickly to ship. It had to be synthesized within the last 48 hours and used immediately. How do you know all this? Dr. Chun asked, impressed despite himself. I spent 2 weeks after that boy died researching everything I could about this toxin. Reading papers, contacting chemists, becoming an expert in something I never wanted to see again. Anna's voice hardened. And now here we are. Don Aurelio's phone buzzed. He answered, listened. Then his expression darkened. Bring him in. Minutes later, 2 of Moretti's men dragged in a terrified young man, barely 20, with shaking hands and a bloody nose. Found him trying to flee the city, one of the men reported. Works at the Opera Hall. Janitorial staff. I didn't do anything, the young man cried. I just needed money. Who paid you? Moretti's voice was ice. I don't know. Some guy. He gave me $5,000 to make sure a specific catering uniform was left in the unlocked van. That's all. I swear I didn't know what it was for. Anna watched the interrogation, her stomach turning. This was the world she'd entered, where people were bought and used as pawns in games they didn't understand. What did this man look like?
Marco dimandid.
Older, maybe 50. Had an accent, European, maybe Italian. He wore expensive clothes, real expensive. And he had these weird chemical burns on his hands, like he worked with acid or something. Anna's head snapped up. Chemical burns. Yeah, on his fingers. Fresh ones too, still pink. She grabbed Marco's arm. That's our chemist. Someone who works with dangerous compounds regularly. The burns are occupational. Happens when you handle certain reagents without proper protection. Don Aurelio was already on the phone. I want every chemist in the tri-state area investigated. Focus on people with European backgrounds, chemistry degrees, and access to advanced labs. Check universities, pharmaceutical companies, private research facilities. I want names in 1 hour. Wait, Anna said, a terrible realization dawning. 3 years ago, after the boy died, I tried to find out where that toxin came from. I tracked down rumors about an underground chemist who called himself the Alchemist. They said he worked for the highest bidder, creating custom poisons, designer drugs, anything for the right price. You have a name. No one knew his real identity, but the stories all mentioned he operated out of the old industrial district near the docks. That area is controlled by the Casaro family, Marco finished grimly. Our biggest rival. The pieces clicked into place. This wasn't a random assassination attempt. This was calculated personal warfare. Don Aurelio's face was unreadable, but Anna could see the fury burning behind his eyes. Don Casaro has been quiet for months. Too quiet. If the alchemist works for Casaro, Anna said, then the antidote, if one even exists, is probably in his lab. And that lab is in enemy territory. How do we know there is an antidote? Dr. Chun asked. Any good chemist who creates a poison also creates the cure, Anna explained. Insurance policy. You never know when you might accidentally expose yourself or need leverage. If the alchemist made this toxin, he made an antidote too. Don Aurelio pulled out his phone again. Get me everything we have on Casaro's operations in the dock district. Blueprints, guard rotations, everything. Boss, going into Casaro territory is a declaration of war, Marco warned. My daughter is dying. We're already at war, he turned to Anna. Can you identify this lab if you see it? Anna thought about the chemical burns, the sophisticated synthesis required, the timeline. Yes, but we need to move fast. Even if we find the antidote, I'll need time to verify it's safe and administer it properly. How much time do we have? Anna checked her watch, did the mental calculation, and felt her stomach drop. 18 hours has become 16. We need to be back here with that antidote in 12 hours maximum, or even the cure won't save her. Don Aurelio looked at his daughter, unconscious and fading. Then he looked at Anna, this homeless woman who'd become his only hope. Then we leave in 10 minutes. Marco, assemble a team. Miss Reyes, you're coming with us. If we find the alchemist's lab, I need you to identify what we're looking for. I haven't been in a fight in years, Anna protested. You won't be fighting. Marco will keep you safe. Your job is to save my daughter. His job is to make sure you survive long enough to do it. As the room erupted into organized chaos, men checking weapons, pulling up maps, making plans, Anna looked down at her worn clothes, her dirty hands, and wondered how a woman who'd spent 3 years sleeping on sidewalks had ended up planning a raid into enemy territory with the Mafia. But she knew the answer. Redemption never came easy, and some debts could only be paid in blood, sweat, and impossible choices. The clock was ticking. Valeria Moretti had 12 hours left. And Ana Reyes was going to war. The black SUV rolled through the city streets at 2 in the morning, headlights cutting through fog that had settled over the waterfront. Anna sat in the back seat between Marco and another guard whose name she hadn't caught. Both men were armed. Both looked at her like she was either a miracle worker or a con artist. They hadn't decided which yet. The dock district is divided into 3 zones, Marco explained, unfolding a map on his lap. Casaro controls the eastern section, warehouses, shipping containers, a few legitimate businesses as fronts. The alchemist lab could be anywhere in a 20-block radius. That's a lot of ground to cover in 12 hours, Anna said. We don't have to cover it all. We just have to not get killed doing it. Marco's tone suggested he wasn't entirely joking. Don Aurelio sat in the front passenger seat, phone pressed to his ear, coordinating with his people throughout the city. I want eyes on every entrance to Casaro territory. Anyone comes or goes, I want to know about it. No direct confrontation yet. We're not starting a war tonight, just finishing 1 inch. Anna watched the city change as they drove. The gleaming downtown skyscrapers gave way to older neighborhoods, then industrial zones with chain-link fences and rusted machinery. This was a part of the city she knew well from her homeless years. Places where people didn't ask questions, where you could disappear. Why would the alchemists work for Casaro? She asked, trying to understand the players in this deadly game. Money, Marco said simply. The alchemist sells to whoever pays. But Casaro's been trying to expand his operations for years. Don Aurelio has kept him boxed in, limited his territory. This poison killing Valeria, it's not just murder. The psychological warfare. Casaro knows nothing hurts the boss more than family. Anna thought about that. So Valeria wasn't the real target. She was just the weapon. The target was her father.
Smart Marco acknowledged.
Most people don't understand how this world works. I'm learning fast. The SUV slowed as they approached the docks. Fog rolled in from the harbor, making visibility terrible. The smell of salt water and diesel fuel filled the air. In the distance, Anna could hear the low groan of ship horns. We're entering Casaro territory now, the driver announced. Marco pulled out his gun, checked the magazine. Stay close to me. Don't wander off. Don't touch anything. And if shooting starts, hit the ground and stay there.
Wonderful, Anna mutteret.
They parked in an alley between 2 abandoned warehouses. Don Aurelio's phone buzzed again. He listened, then turned to Marco. We've got a possible location. Warehouse 47, 3 blocks north. One of our informants says Casaro has a secured building there. Unusual amount of security for what's supposed to be empty storage. Could be anything, Marco said. Drugs, weapons, counterfeit operation. Or a chemistry lab, Anna added. They moved through the streets on foot, staying in shadows. Don Aurelio had brought 6 men total, enough to handle trouble, but not so many that they'd be spotted immediately. Anna felt absurdly out of place in her worn jacket and broken-down sneakers, surrounded by men in tactical gear with expensive weapons. "Wait," Anna whispered, grabbing Marco's arm. "I know these streets." "What?" "When I was homeless, I used to sleep near here during summer months. The abandoned fish cannery on Pier 12. It's warm because of the old boilers, and there's a way to get in through the sewers," she pointed east. "If we're trying to get to Warehouse 47 without being seen, I know a route. Underground tunnels. The city used them for maintenance access decades ago, but they're forgotten now. Only the homeless use them." Marco looked at Don Aurelio. "Boss, you know these tunnels?" Don Aurelio asked Anna, his tone sharp. "You can navigate them." "I lived down there for 3 months one winter. I know them better than the streets above." Anna saw the doubt in their faces. "Look, you brought me along because I understand the poison, but I also understand survival in this city. Those tunnels will get us close without Casaro's men seeing us." Don Aurelio considered for a long moment. Time was bleeding away. Valeria had maybe 11 hours left. "Show us," he decided. Anna led them to a storm drain 2 blocks away. The metal grate was rusted, but Marco and another man pried it open. The smell that wafted up was terrible: decay, mold, stagnant water. "You live down here?" Marco asked, disgusted. "You do what you have to do to survive," Anna said quietly. "After you lose everything, pride is a luxury you can't afford." She climbed down the ladder first, her feet finding familiar holds even in the darkness. The men followed, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. Water dripped from somewhere, echoing in the enclosed space. "This way," Anna directed, moving confidently through the tunnel. "Stay away from the left wall. There's a weak section that collapsed last year. And watch for rats. They're not usually aggressive, but..." They walked through the underground maze, Anna navigating by memory and instinct. She pointed out where different tunnels led, which were dead ends, where the homeless community had carved warnings into the concrete. "You really survived down here," Marco said. It wasn't a question anymore, but a statement of newfound respect. "I survived lots of places. When you lose your job, your license, your apartment, and your dignity all at once, you get creative. These tunnels kept me alive through a winter that killed 3 other homeless people I knew." The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, an old junction point where several passages met. Anna checked their position, counting drainage pipes. "Warehouse 47 should be directly above us now," she whispered. "There's a maintenance shaft that leads up to the building. When I stayed here, I used to hear machines running at night through the ventilation. Industrial sounds, chemical processing equipment, maybe." "The alchemist," Don Aurelio said with certainty. They found the shaft, a metal ladder bolted to concrete, leading up into darkness. Marco went first, gun drawn, climbing slowly. He reached a hatch, tested it carefully, then pushed it open. "Clear," he called down softly. One by one, they climbed up and found themselves in a basement storage area. The air smelled different here, sharp, chemical, dangerous. Anna's nursing instincts recognized it immediately. "That's benzene and acetone," she whispered. "Common solvents for organic synthesis. We're in the right place." Marco signaled his men to spread out. They moved through the basement silently, professionally. Anna stayed close to Marco, her heart pounding. Upstairs, they could hear footsteps, voices speaking in Italian. 2 guards, maybe 3, Marco assessed. "We need to get past them without alerting the whole building." "Wait," Anna said, noticing something. "Look at the ventilation system. See how it's configured? That's not standard warehouse setup. Someone modified this to handle toxic fumes. The lab isn't upstairs, it's down here, deeper in the basement. Labs that work with dangerous compounds need to be below ground for safety and secrecy." Don Aurelio smiled, the first genuine smile Anna had seen from him. "You're earning your freedom, Miss Reyes." They moved deeper into the basement, following the chemical smell and the hum of ventilation equipment. Around a corner behind a reinforced steel door, they found it. The alchemist's laboratory. And standing in front of it were 4 armed guards who definitely weren't expecting visitors through the sewers. For a frozen moment, everyone stared at each other. Then all hell broke loose. Marco moved before Anna could even process what was happening. His gun came up and he fired 2 suppressed shots. The first guard dropped. The second managed to shout a warning before Marco's team took him down. "They've alerted the building," one of Moretti's men yelled. Footsteps thundered from above. Shouts in Italian echoed through the warehouse. An alarm began to wail. "Get that door open," Don Aurelio ordered, remarkably calm despite the chaos. "We need what's inside that lab." Marco shot the electronic lock, then kicked the steel door. It buckled but held. He kicked again and this time it flew open, revealing a laboratory that looked like something from a pharmaceutical company. Stainless steel equipment, glass beakers and tubes, chemical storage cabinets with hazard warnings. And sitting calmly at a desk, making no move to flee, was an older man with silver hair and chemical burns on his hands. The alchemist. "Don Aurelio," the man said in accented English-Italian, just as the janitor had described. "I wondered when you would arrive. Took you longer than I expected. Where's the antidote?" Anna demanded, pushing past Marco into the lab. The alchemist's eyes slid to her with interest. "And who might you be?" "Not one of Moretti's usual thugs. The person who's going to save his daughter." "Where is it?" Gunfire erupted from the floor above. Casaro's reinforcements arriving. Marco positioned his men at the doorway, returning fire up the stairs. The confined space made every shot deafening. "We don't have time for this," Don Aurelio said, pulling his own weapon and aiming it at the alchemist's head. "The antidote. Now." "I don't have it," the alchemist said simply. Anna's heart sank. "What do you mean you don't have it?" "I created the poison as commissioned." "But the antidote? That wasn't part of the contract." "Don Casaro didn't pay for a cure, only for death," he smiled. "Although I did synthesize a potential counter-agent. For my own protection, you understand. But I gave it to Don Casaro as insurance." "Where is Casaro?" Marco shouted over the gunfire. "Probably in his estate, celebrating." The alchemist pulled out a phone, completely unafraid of the gun pointed at him. "Would you like me to call him? I'm sure he'd enjoy gloating." Don Aurelio snatched the phone and dialed the last number. It rang twice before a gruff voice answered. "Ah, Aurelio," Don Casaro said, his tone dripping with satisfaction. "I assume you found my little gift." Anna could hear the speaker clearly in the confined lab. Don Aurelio's hand tightened on the phone, but his voice remained controlled. "You poisoned my daughter." "I killed your daughter," Casaro corrected. "She's dead already, Aurelio. You just don't know it yet. How does it feel? How does it feel to be powerless for once in your miserable life? I'll burn your empire to the ground. You're welcome to try. But first you'll watch your precious Valeria die." Gasping for air, her nervous system shutting down piece by piece. "I wanted you to feel what I felt when you took everything from me 4 years ago. Remember the territory war? When you destroyed my operations in the North District. That was my legacy. My life's work. And you crushed it like it was nothing." Anna saw the bigger picture now. This wasn't about business or territory. This was personal vendetta, years in the making. Casaro had struck at the one thing Aurelio loved more than power. "I have your chemist," Don Aurelio said coldly. "Keep him. I'm done with him anyway." The alchemist's confident expression finally cracked. "I want the antidote," Don Aurelio continued. "Name your price." There was a long pause. Then Casaro laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "My price? You on your knees, Aurelio. Public, in front of both families. You kneel before me and acknowledge that I am your superior. Kiss my ring like the subordinate dog you are. Do that, broadcast it to every family in this city, and maybe, I'll give you the antidote in time to save her. The line went dead. Anna watched Don Aurelio's face. For a moment, she saw a father weighing his pride against his daughter's life. Then his expression hardened into something terrifying. Marco, secure the alchemist. He's coming with us. You can't save her without Casaro, the alchemist said nervously. The antidote is specifically calibrated to neutralize my compound. Nothing else will work. Then you're going to recreate it, Anna said, already moving through the lab, checking equipment and chemical supplies. You made the poison. You can make the cure. It took me 3 weeks to develop the original counteragent. You have what, 10 hours?
Impossible.
Anna grabbed him by his burned hand, squeezing hard enough to make him wince. That boy who died 3 years ago? The one who was your test subject? He was 12 years old. His name was Marcus Chen. He liked dinosaurs and wanted to be a paleontologist. And he died screaming because of something you created. I didn't kill him. You might as well have Anna's voice was steel. Now you're going to save someone. For once in your miserable life, you're going to create something that heals instead of destroys. And you're going to do it in the next 10 hours, or I will personally make sure that Don Aurelio does things to you that will make you beg for death. The alchemist looked at this fierce homeless woman, then at Don Aurelio's cold eyes, then at Marco's gun. I'll need my equipment and specific compounds from that storage cabinet. Take everything, Don Aurelio ordered his men. Load the van. We move in 2 minutes. More gunfire from above. Casaro's men were getting closer. Boss, we're pinned down, one of Marco's team shouted. They've blocked the stairwell. The tunnels, Anna said. We came in through the sewers, we can leave the same way. Help me gather this equipment. They worked frantically, grabbing glass beakers, chemical containers, notebooks filled with formulas. The alchemist directed them with increasing cooperation. Clearly, he valued his life more than his loyalty to Casaro. Move, Marco ordered, laying down covering fire as they retreated toward the basement hatch. They climbed down into the tunnels one by one, passing equipment through carefully. Anna went last, helping to lower a case of delicate chemicals. Just as she descended, she heard Casaro's men breach the lab above. They went underground. Send men through the storm drains. Marco slammed the hatch shut and jammed it with a metal rod. That'll buy us minutes, maybe. They ran through the tunnels, Anna leading again, splashing through water, the chemical equipment weighing them down. Behind them they could hear pursuit, voices echoing through the underground passages. Left here, Anna directed. There's a junction that splits 3 ways. We can lose them. They emerged 20 minutes later from a different storm drain, 6 blocks from where they'd entered. The SUVs were waiting, engines running. As they loaded the equipment and sped away from Casaro territory, Don Aurelio's phone buzzed with a text message. From Don Casaro. 10 hours left, Aurelio. My offer stands. Kneel or she dies. Choose wisely. Anna looked at the stolen lab equipment, at the alchemist shaking in the back seat, at the chemical formulas that might save Valeria's life. We don't need him, she said quietly. We'll make our own miracle. Don Aurelio met her eyes in the rearview mirror. In that moment, Anna saw something she never expected to see in a mafia boss's face. He believed in her. Now she just had to believe in herself. They converted a storage room at Mercy General Hospital into an improvised laboratory within 30 minutes. Anna had insisted they work here rather than Don Aurelio's private facility. She knew this hospital, knew the staff, and more importantly, she knew where everything was. Dr. Chan helped set up the alchemist's equipment while Anna scrubbed in properly for the first time in 3 years. The hot water on her hands, the harsh soap, the familiar ritual, it all came flooding back. I never thought I'd be doing this again, she murmured. You were always meant to be a nurse, Dr. Chun said quietly. He'd been one of the doctors on duty when Marcus died, had watched Anna's career implode. What happened 3 years ago? That wasn't your fault. Tell that to Marcus's parents. Marcus died because the system failed. You tried to save him. Anna dried her hands, looked at her reflection in the mirror. 3 years of street life had aged her, carved lines into her face, but her eyes were still steady, still determined. Let's make sure Valeria doesn't die the same way. The alchemist sat at a workbench, Marco's gun trained on him from across the room. Don Aurelio stood by the window, making phone calls, coordinating his empire even as his daughter lay dying floors above. The base compound requires precise pH levels, the alchemist explained, his hands moving through the chemicals. The original antidote works by binding to the toxin's molecular structure and rendering it inert. But the synthesis is delicate. One miscalculation and it becomes poison itself. Then don't miscalculate, Marco said coldly. Anna reviewed the alchemist's notes, her nursing knowledge combining with the research she'd done 3 years ago. This step here, you're using a catalyst that speeds the reaction, but it also increases instability. If we substitute with a slower-acting agent, we get a more reliable compound. The alchemist looked at her with surprise. You understand organic chemistry. I understand saving lives. Chemistry is just the tool. They worked in focused silence, mixing compounds, testing pH levels, running calculations. Anna felt alive in a way she hadn't for years. This was her purpose, her calling. Not sleeping in doorways or begging for change, but this using her mind and training to pull someone back from death's edge. Don Aurelio's phone rang. His expression darkened as he listened. Repeat that, he said sharply. Then to Marco. Casaro's men are moving. 20 vehicles spotted heading toward the city center. Intel says they're targeting this hospital. Anna's blood ran cold. He knows we're here. Casaro has informants everywhere. He probably tracked us from the docks. Don Aurelio was already issuing orders. I want every available man at Mercy General in 15 minutes. Lock down all entrances. Evacuate non-essential staff. How long until the antidote is ready? Marco asked Anna. She checked the mixture, calculated the remaining steps. At least 4 hours. Maybe 5 inch. We don't have 5 hours if Casaro attacks. Then you'll have to hold them off, Anna said, not looking up from her work. Because I'm not rushing this. If I make a mistake, Valeria dies anyway. Alarms began blaring throughout the hospital. Dr. Chun burst into the room. We're evacuating patients to other facilities, but we have 47 people who can't be moved safely. ICU cases, post-surgical patients. They stay, Don Aurelio decided. Marco positioned men on every floor. Priority is this room and Valeria's suite. Everyone else is secondary. Boss, with all respect, there are innocent people here. And my daughter is one of them. Don Aurelio's voice was ice. Casaro wants a war? He'll get 1 inch. Anna watched medical staff scrambling, patients being wheeled toward ambulances, Moretti's armed men taking positions throughout the building. This was her fault. By bringing the alchemist here, by choosing this hospital, she'd made Mercy General a war zone. Just like she'd destroyed it 3 years ago by breaking protocol. Focus, she told herself again, returning to the synthesis. The first gunshot came 20 minutes later. A sharp crack from the street level. Then another. Then the steady chatter of automatic weapons fire. They're here, someone shouted. Marco grabbed his radio. All units, defensive positions. Do not let anyone reach the 3rd floor. Anna's hand shook as she measured out a precise amount of reagent. The alchemist was right, this required absolute precision. One mistake and the compound would be useless or lethal. You're doing fine, Dr. Chun said, reading her anxiety. Just like old times. Old times got a child killed. Old times tried to save a child against impossible odds. There's a difference. Gunfire intensified. Glass shattered somewhere below. Anna heard shouting, screaming, the chaos of violence invading a place meant for healing. They've breached the ground floor. Marco's radio crackled. Holding at the stairwells. Don Aurelio moved to the door. I'm going to check on Valeria. Boss, you should stay here. That's my daughter up there. If Casaro's men break through, I will not let her die alone. He left, flanked by 2 guards. Anna watched him go, understanding for the first time why people feared and followed him. Aurelio Moretti was many things: criminal, killer, tyrant. But he was also a father who would burn the world for his child. Just like Marcus's parents would have done anything to save their son. The compound is stabilizing, the alchemist announced. Another 3 hours for complete synthesis, then we need to test it. Test it how? Anna asked. Ideally, on a subject with similar physiology who's been exposed to a sublethal dose. We don't have test subjects and we don't have time. When this antidote is ready, we're giving it to Valeria and praying it works. An explosion rocked the building. The lights flickered. Anna grabbed the workbench to steady herself, protecting the delicate glassware. What was that? The alchemist yelped. Marco was on his radio, his face grim. They're using explosives. Trying to breach the second-floor barricade. Tell your men to hold, Anna said, surprising herself with the authority in her voice. Tell them that every minute they buy is a minute closer to saving her. Marco relayed the message, then looked at Anna with new respect. You should have been a general, not a nurse. I'm both right now. She turned back to the synthesis, blocking out the gunfire, the explosions, the screaming. Around her, Dr. Chan and 2 other nurses who'd refused to evacuate worked frantically, preparing for equipment, setting up monitoring systems, readying Valeria's room for the antidote administration. These people were risking their lives for a mafia princess. But Anna understood why. In a hospital, you didn't ask whose daughter someone was. You just tried to save them. Another explosion, closer this time. Dust fell from the ceiling. The building's structure groaned. Second floor breached, the radio screamed. They're coming up. Fall back to the 3rd floor. Marco ordered. Protect the lab and Valeria's suite at all costs. Anna heard boots pounding in the hallways, orders being shouted in Italian, the sustained fire of weapons. Men were dying. All because she'd agreed to save one girl. No, she reminded herself. All because Casaro had poisoned an innocent woman to hurt her father. All because of grudges and revenge in a world where human lives were just chess pieces. The binding agent is setting, the alchemist said, his voice shaking. 2 more hours. 2 more hours. Valeria had maybe 6 hours of life left. They were cutting it impossibly close. Don Aurelio's voice came over Marco's radio. Whatever happens, no one enters Valeria's room. No 1 inch. Understood, boss. Anna measured, mixed, monitored the chemical reactions with absolute concentration. Around her, Mercy General Hospital had become a battlefield. But in this converted storage room, she was doing what she'd always been meant to do. She was fighting death itself. And this time she was going to win. The gunfire had been quiet for 20 minutes. An eerie silence that felt more ominous than the chaos. Anna didn't trust it. She kept working, her hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. Phase 2 complete, she announced, checking the compound's color against the alchemist's notes. We need to let it crystallize for 90 minutes, then dissolve it in a saline solution. The alchemist nodded, slumped in his chair with exhaustion. Marco stood guard by the door, his weapon ready, his face spattered with someone else's blood. How many? Anna asked quietly. How many what? How many people died tonight? Marco's jaw tightened. 3 of ours. At least 8 of theirs. And 2 hospital security guards who tried to help. He looked at her. You feeling guilty? Shouldn't I? You didn't start this war. You're just trying to survive it. Dr. Chan appeared in the doorway, looking haggard. The wounded are stable. We set up a triage area in the cafeteria. Some of Casaro's men we captured. Do you want me to treat them? Anna answered before Marco could. Yes. Treat everyone. That's what doctors do. They tried to kill us, Marco objected. And we'll save them anyway. Because that's the difference between a hospital and a battlefield. Marco studied her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. You really believe that? I have to. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? He holstered his weapon and leaned against the wall. Take a break. Both of you. The compound needs time anyway. I'll watch The Alchemist. Anna realized she was shaking from exhaustion. When was the last time she'd eaten? Slept? The adrenaline had been masking her body's limits. She stepped into the hallway, found a quiet corner, and slid down the wall to sit on the floor. A position she perfected during her homeless years. Dr. Chun joined her, bringing 2 bottles of water and some crackers from a vending machine. Fancy meal, Anna said with a weak smile. Better than nothing. He opened his bottle, took a long drink. I need to tell you something. About Marcus. Anna's throat tightened. I don't want to talk about him. His parents don't blame you. They never did. How would you know? Because I stayed in touch with them. After you disappeared, after everything fell apart, I checked on them. They asked about you. They wanted to thank you for trying. Anna felt tears burning her eyes, the first she'd allowed herself in 3 years. I broke into the pharmacy. I violated every protocol. I got myself fired and blacklisted. You tried to save their son when everyone else had given up. And he died anyway. Yes, Dr. Chen's voice was gentle. He died. But not because you failed him. He died because this hospital didn't have the resources to save him. And you want to know why we didn't have those resources? Anna looked at him, already knowing the answer. The Moretti family had been extorting us for 2 years. 20,000 a month in protection fees. That money came from our budget, from equipment, from medication, from emergency funds. The antidote that could have saved Marcus? We couldn't authorize the expense because the Moretti family had bled us dry. The words hung in the air. Anna had known on some level, but hearing it said aloud made it real in a way it hadn't been before. So I'm saving the daughter of the man who killed Marcus. You're saving an innocent girl who had nothing to do with her father's crimes. Just like Marcus was innocent. Dr. Chan put a hand on her shoulder. And maybe, just maybe, you're also making sure that what happened to Marcus never happens again. You made Moretti promise to leave the hospital alone, right?
Anna nodded.
Then Marcus's death might finally mean something. Because you're using it to protect other children. They sat in silence for a while. Down the hall, Marco was visible through the lab's window, watching the alchemist work. The bodyguard had seemed like just another violent thug when Anna first met him. But tonight she'd seen something different. The way he'd protected the hospital staff during the firefight. The way he'd made sure the wounded, both sides, got medical attention. The way he looked at her now. Not with contempt but with something close to admiration. Why did you really stay? Anna asked Dr. Chun. You could have evacuated. You have kids, a family. Same reason you came back. Because sometimes you have to stand up and do the right thing. Even when it's terrifying. He smiled sadly. And because I saw a woman walk into this hospital tonight. A woman I thought was broken. And she was fierce and brilliant and determined to save a life. How could I not help? Marco appeared around the corner. Time to check the compound. Anna stood, joints aching from sitting on the hard floor. Another reminder of her years on the streets. But she felt stronger somehow, more grounded. Dr. Chen's words had given her something she hadn't had in years. Forgiveness. They returned to the lab. The compound had crystallized perfectly. Tiny geometric structures forming in the solution like stars. The alchemist prepared the saline mixture, while Anna calculated the dosage based on Valeria's weight and current condition. We need to test her blood levels first, Anna said. Make sure the toxin concentration hasn't increased beyond what this antidote can handle. I'll draw the blood, Dr. Chun offered. They went to Valeria's room together. Don Aurelio sat beside his daughter's bed, holding her hand. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the last 12 hours. How is she? Anna asked. Worse. Her breathing is becoming irregular. Dr. Chun says her nervous system is failing faster than expected. Anna checked the monitors. He was right. Valeria was deteriorating rapidly. We're almost ready, she said. 1 more hour, maybe 90 minutes. Will she last that long? Anna looked at the young woman in the bed, pale, unconscious, dying. She thought about Marcus, about all the people she'd failed to save, about the weight of every life that had slipped through her fingers. She has to, Anna said firmly, because I'm not losing another one. Dr. Chun drew blood and rushed it to the lab for analysis. While they waited for results, Marco brought Anna a cup of coffee, surprisingly good coffee, not the hospital cafeteria sludge. Where did this come from? She asked. Boss had it brought in. Figured you needed it. The Mafia delivers gourmet coffee during shootouts. The Mafia takes care of people who matter. Marco paused. You matter now. You should know that. Anna didn't know what to say to that. She sipped the coffee and watched the alchemist make final adjustments to the antidote. The test results came back. The toxin levels were high, dangerously high, but still within the range the antidote could theoretically neutralize. This is it, Anna said. Prepare the 4. We're going to save her life. Or die trying, she didn't add. But everyone in that room knew the stakes. And everyone had made their choice to be there. The antidote gleamed in the 4 bag like liquid hope, clear, slightly amber-tinted, the result of 12 hours of desperate work. Anna held it up to the light, checking for any precipitation or contamination. It looked perfect. But looking perfect and working were 2 different things. Last chance to test it, the alchemist said nervously. We could try a small dose on a lab animal. We don't have lab animals and we don't have time. Anna cut him off. She turned to Don Aurelio. I need you to understand something. This antidote is based on sound chemistry and everything I know about this toxin. But I can't guarantee it will work. There's a chance, a small chance that it could make things worse. What are the odds? Don Aurelio asked. 70% success. Maybe 80. The problem is, if it fails catastrophically. The interaction could accelerate the toxin's effects. So we could kill her faster. Yes. Don Aurelio looked at his daughter. Valeria's breathing was shallow, irregular. Her skin had taken on a grayish pallor. The monitors showed her nervous system continuing its shutdown. If we do nothing, she dies, he said quietly. Yes. Within the next 2 hours, probably less. Then we have no choice. He touched Valeria's face gently. Do it. Anna's hand shook slightly as she hung the 4 bag. Dr. Chun helped her connect it to Valeria's central line, adjusting the flow rate. They calculated the dosage 3 times, checked their math from every angle. But math couldn't account for human biology's unpredictability. Starting the infusion, Anna announced, opening the clamp. This will take 30 minutes to fully administer. The reaction should begin within 10 minutes if it's going to work. Everyone watched the clear liquid drip through the tube into Valeria's vein. Anna positioned herself by the monitors, ready to intervene if things went wrong. Marco stood near the door, his hand on his weapon, as if he could shoot death itself if it tried to enter the room. 5 minutes passed. Nothing changed. 7 minutes. Valeria's breathing remained shallow. 10 minutes. Anna checked her pulse, still weak, still irregular. It's not working, the alchemist whispered. Give it time, Anna said, though her own confidence was cracking. She'd been so certain, so determined. But what if she was wrong? What if this was Marcus all over again? Another life she couldn't save, another failure to add to her collection. 12 minutes. Anna noticed something. Her breathing just deepened. Did you see that? Dr. Chun leaned closer. You're right. Respiratory rate is improving, 17 breaths per minute, up from 14-inch. Could be a final surge, the alchemist said. Sometimes the body rallies before. Shut up, Marco growled. 15 minutes. Valeria's eyelids fluttered. She's regaining consciousness, Anna said, hardly daring to believe it. Pupil response is improving. Heart rate is stabilizing. Don Aurelio gripped his daughter's hand tighter. Valeria? Can you hear me? A soft moan. Then Valeria's eyes opened, confused, unfocused, but open. Papa. Her voice was barely a whisper. The sound of that single word broke something in Don Aurelio's face. The cold, controlled mafia boss dissolved, replaced by a father who just watched his daughter return from death's door. Tears ran down his cheeks unchecked. I'm here, sweetheart. I'm here. Anna monitored the vitals with growing hope. Every indicator was improving. Oxygen saturation rising, heart rhythm steadying, neural responses returning to normal ranges. The antidote was working. The binding agent was neutralizing the toxin, giving Valeria's body a chance to heal. 25 minutes. Valeria was fully conscious now, weak but aware. What happened? She asked. I remember the banquet, the champagne tasting wrong, and then, you were poisoned, Don Aurelio said. But you're going to be fine now. Valeria's gaze shifted, finding Anna standing by the monitors. Who are you?
I'm Anna.
I'm a nurse. I helped prepare your antidote. You saved my life. I had help. Anna gestured to Dr. Chan, to the equipment, to the room full of people who'd fought to keep her alive. But she didn't mention the alchemist sitting nervously in the corner. Some truths could wait. The 4-bag emptied. Anna removed it carefully, checking the insertion site for any adverse reactions. Everything looked good. Better than good, it looked miraculous. We should keep her monitored for the next 24 hours, Anna told Dr. Chan. Make sure all the toxin is neutralized and there's no secondary organ damage. Agreed. But the crisis is over, Dr. Chan smiled. The first genuine smile Anna had seen from him since she'd arrived. You did it, Anna. You actually did it. She had. After 3 years of failure and guilt and sleeping on streets, Ana Reyes had saved a life. Marco stepped forward, extending his hand. You earned your freedom tonight. The boss keeps his promises. Ana shook his hand, feeling the calluses of a man who'd spent the night fighting. And the hospital? He'll keep that promise too. Don Aurelio looked up from his daughter's bedside. Mercy General is free from my organization's involvement. Effective immediately. No more protection fees, no more interference. You have my word, Miss Reyes. And I'll ensure the hospital receives a generous anonymous donation to replace the years of revenue they lost. Make it a very generous donation, Anna said. Enough to establish a fund for expensive emergency treatments. So no other family has to watch their child die because they can't afford the antidote. Consider it done. Valeria squeezed her father's hand weakly. Papa, I heard gunshots. What happened? Nothing you need to worry about. Just business being settled. But Anna knew it wasn't settled. Casara was still out there. The alchemist was a loose end. And the night's violence had opened wounds that would take more than medicine to heal. As if reading her thoughts, Don Aurelio's phone rang. He listened for a moment, his expression hardening back into the cold mask she'd first seen in that basement. Understood. I'll handle it personally. He hung up and looked at Marco. Casaro just received word that Valeria survived. He's making moves, calling in favors, rallying his allies. He knows if she lives, he's lost his leverage. What are you going to do? Anna asked. What I should have done years ago. Don Aurelio stood, kissed his daughter's forehead. I'm going to end this permanently. Valeria, stay here with Dr. Chan and Miss Reyes. Marco, you're with me. Boss, you should rest. I'll rest when Casaro is no longer a threat. He turned to Anna. Thank you for saving my daughter. Now let me save my city. He left with Marco and 4 other men, moving with lethal purpose. Anna watched them go, wondering what ending this permanently meant in the world of organized crime. But she knew. She'd lived on these streets long enough to understand. Don Aurelio Moretti was going to war. And this time he wasn't just fighting to survive. He was fighting to win. Anna stayed with Valeria through the night, monitoring her recovery while Dr. Chun caught a few hours of sleep in the break room. The young woman drifted in and out of consciousness, each time waking more alert, more herself. "Tell me the truth," Valeria said during one of her wakeful periods. "How close did I come?" Anna checked her vitals before answering. "Close enough that we're lucky to be having this conversation." "And you?" "You're homeless," Marco said. "Why would you risk everything to save me?" "Because I failed to save someone once before. I wasn't going to let it happen again." Valeria studied her with intelligent eyes that reminded Anna of her father. "You made my father promise to leave the hospital alone. You could have asked for money, a house, anything. But you chose to protect strangers." "They're not strangers. They're patients. That matters." "You're not what I expected," Valeria said softly. "When I heard a homeless woman had identified the poison, I thought. I don't know what I thought. But not this. Not you." Anna didn't know how to respond to that, so she just adjusted the flow and checked the monitors again. Don Aurelio returned at dawn. He looked tired but satisfied, the expression of a man who'd accomplished something difficult and necessary. Marco was with him, along with 2 other men carrying tablets and documents. "How is she?" Don Aurelio asked. "Strong. The antidote worked perfectly. Another 12 hours of observation and she can go home." "Good." He turned to Marco. "Show them." Marco set up a tablet on the bedside table, angling it so both Valeria and Anna could see. The screen showed financial records, shipping manifests, property deeds, a complex web of businesses and transactions. "This is Casaro's empire," Don Aurelio explained. "Or rather, what's left of it." "What did you do?" Valeria asked. "I dismantled him." Piece by piece, carefully, strategically, Don Aurelio pulled up a chair, and Anna saw a different side of him. Not the violent gangster, but the calculating businessman. Casaro's power came from 3 sources: money, political connections, and fear. "So I removed all 3-inch. Marco tapped the screen, bringing up bank records. "First, the money. Casaro had accounts in 7 banks, all moving dirty money through legitimate businesses. The boss has contacts in federal banking regulation. By 6 a.m., every one of those accounts was frozen pending investigation into money laundering." "You called the FBI on him?" Anna asked, surprised. "I provided anonymous tips to agencies that were already investigating him. Sometimes the law is more efficient than bullets." Don Aurelio smiled without warmth. "Casaro's entire liquid capital gone. His businesses can't operate without cash flow." Another screen. "Second, his political protection. Casaro had 3 city council members, 1 judge, and a police captain on his payroll. I had Marco deliver evidence of their corruption to their political opponents in internal affairs. By morning, all of them were under investigation. The judge has already resigned." "You burned his bridges," Valeria said, understanding. "Better. I made him toxic. No politician will touch him now, not when association means career suicide." A third screen showed what looked like communication records. Third, his organization itself. Casaro's operation depended on loyalty from his lieutenants. "So I made them an offer, immunity from prosecution and a generous severance package if they walked away. No violence, no revenge, just a clean exit from the life." "How many took it?" Anna asked. "All but 2. Turns out loyalty goes only so far when your boss just tried to start a war that got dozens of men killed for personal revenge." Don Aurelio's voice was cold. "The 2 who refused have been encouraged to retire from criminal activity permanently." Anna didn't ask what that meant. By sunrise, Casaro's money was frozen, his political protection gone, his organization scattered, and his reputation destroyed. He went from being one of the most powerful men in this city to being radioactive in 8 hours. "Where is he now?" Valeria asked. "Hiding in his estate with maybe a dozen loyal men. No money to pay them. No future to offer them. Just a bitter old man who let his need for revenge destroy everything he built." Marco pulled up one final screen. a live security feed showing a mansion surrounded by police vehicles. We also provided evidence that Casaro orchestrated the poisoning at the charity gala. Multiple witnesses, paper trails, the whole package. The DA has issued a warrant for his arrest on attempted murder charges. He'll spend the rest of his life in prison. You didn't kill him, Anna observed. Death would have been mercy, Don Aurelio said quietly. I wanted him to live, to watch his empire crumble, to face trial, to spend decades in a cell knowing that he destroyed himself. That's a better revenge than a bullet. It was elegant, Anna had to admit. Brutal in its efficiency, but elegant. Don Aurelio had waged war without firing a shot, at least not at Casaro directly. He'd used the man's own actions against him, turned the system Casaro had corrupted into the weapon that brought him down. What about the alchemist? Anna asked. Also in federal custody, charged with manufacturing illegal bioweapons and multiple counts of conspiracy to commit murder. He's cooperating fully in exchange for a reduced sentence. Don Aurelio looked at Anna. The poison he created, all formulas, all notes, all samples have been destroyed. No one will die from that toxin again. Valeria reached for her father's hand. It's over. It's over. You're safe. The threat is eliminated. And I didn't have to burn the city down to do it. Anna saw the pride in his eyes. Not just pride in victory, but pride in the method. Don Aurelio had proven he could be more than a blunt instrument of violence. He could be surgical, strategic, devastating in his precision. It made him more dangerous than ever. But it also made him something else. As Anna watched him hold his daughter's hand, explaining how he'd protected her without starting a bloodbath, she saw what Valeria must have always known. Beneath the monster was a man capable of choosing restraint when it mattered. Miss Reyes, Don Aurelio said, turning to her. We had an agreement. You saved my daughter, and I would let you go free. But I'd like to make you a different offer.
I'm listening.
You're a skilled nurse who's been out of work for 3 years through no fault of your own. I have resources and connections. I can get your license reinstated, have the hospital hire you back, give you everything you lost. Anna was quiet for a long moment. And in exchange, nothing.
No strings, no obligations.
You earned this through what you did tonight. I don't want my old job back, Anna said slowly, the words surprising even herself. I can't go back to who I was. Too much has changed. Then what do you want? Anna thought about the streets she'd walked for 3 years, the people she'd met, the suffering she'd seen. She thought about Marcus and all the others who'd fallen through society's cracks. I want to open a free clinic. For the people who can't afford hospital care. The homeless, the uninsured, the ones everyone else ignores. I want to be there for them the way the system never was for me. Valeria smiled. I'll fund it. Completely. Consider it thanks for saving my life. You don't have to. I want to. Every person you help will be someone who didn't have to die like I almost did. Valeria's voice was stronger now, determined. Let me do something good with my father's money. Please. Anna looked at this young woman. Privileged, protected, but genuine in her desire to help. And she looked at Don Aurelio, who nodded his approval. All right, Anna agreed. A free clinic. For the people who need it most. Marco will help you find a location, Don Aurelio said. And provide security. The streets can be dangerous. I know. I lived on them. Not anymore, Marco said with something that might have been a smile. Not anymore. 6 months later, Anna stood in front of a renovated storefront in the heart of the city's poorest neighborhood. The sign above the door read, Marcus Chan Memorial Clinic, free medical care for all. It had taken half a year to get her nursing license reinstated. A process that involved legal battles, character witnesses, and finally, a quiet word from someone with influence in the state medical board. Anna suspected Don Aurelio had made a phone call, though he'd never admitted it. The clinic had 12 exam rooms, a small pharmacy stocked with essential medications, and a waiting room that was already filled every morning before they opened. Anna had hired 4 other nurses, 2 doctors who'd volunteered their time, and a social worker to help patients navigate housing and employment services. Dr. Chun would be proud, Dr. Chun himself said, appearing beside her. He'd left Mercy General to work at the clinic full-time, saying his skills were needed more here than in a hospital that now had proper funding. His parents came by yesterday, Anna said. They want to establish a scholarship fund in his name for nursing students from low-income families. That's beautiful. It is. Anna watched a young mother carry her feverish child through the door. 6 months ago, that mother would have had nowhere to turn, would have watched her child suffer because a hospital visit cost too much. Now she had options. Now she had hope. The clinic's funding came from Valeria, who'd proven to be more than just a grateful patient. She'd become a true partner, visiting weekly, helping with administrative tasks, even volunteering in the waiting room. The Mafia princess who'd grown up in mansions now spent her time in one of the city's roughest neighborhoods, and she did it with genuine joy.
Anna.
Valeria called from inside. We need you. Multi-car accident on Highway 9. Ambulances are overwhelmed. They're sending overflow patients here. Anna grabbed her medical bag and moved into action, her team mobilizing efficiently. This was what she'd trained for. Not the politics of hospital administration or the constraints of insurance companies, but direct, immediate care for people who needed it. They treated 7 patients from the accident, setting bones, stitching wounds, stabilizing injuries until they could be transported to hospitals for surgery if needed. Anna worked alongside her staff, her hands steady, her mind clear. This was redemption. Not the dramatic kind from movies, but the daily grinding work of choosing to show up and help over and over again. As the sun set and the last patient was transported, Marco arrived with takeout. He'd gotten into the habit of bringing dinner when Anna worked late, which was most nights. Busy day? He asked, setting bags of food on the break room table. They're all busy days. Anna washed her hands, peeled off her gloves. 3 years ago, I was sleeping in an alley 6 blocks from here. Now I'm running a clinic. It's surreal. You earned it. Marco had changed too in subtle ways. He still worked for Don Aurelio, still carried a gun, but he'd also started volunteering at the clinic security, teaching self-defense classes to homeless women, using his skills to protect rather than intimidate. How's Valeria? Anna asked, though she'd seen her that afternoon. Talking about medical school, if you can believe it. Says watching you work inspired her. Marco smiled, something he did more often now. The boss doesn't know whether to be proud or terrified. He should be proud. She's brilliant. So are you. Anna met his eyes, saw something there that had been building for months. Marco had been present for her lowest moment and her greatest triumph. He'd seen her tied to a chair in a basement and leading a medical team with authority. He'd protected her, respected her, and somewhere along the way, started looking at her with more than professional regard. Marco. I know, he said quickly. You're not ready. Maybe you never will be. I just wanted you to know. You're remarkable, Ana Reyes. Before she could respond, her phone rang. It was an unknown number, but something made her answer. Miss Reyes? This is Sharon Chun, Marcus's mother. Anna's heart clenched. Mrs. Chun, how are you? I'm well. I'm calling because, well, my husband and I wanted you to know that we never blamed you for Marcus's death. We should have said that 3 years ago, but everything happened so fast, and then you disappeared. I couldn't face you. I failed him. No, sweetheart. You fought for him when the system failed. You cared enough to break rules, to risk everything to try. That means more than you know. Her voice caught. We heard about the clinic, about the scholarship, about all the lives you're saving. Marcus would have loved that. He would have been so proud of you. Anna felt tears streaming down her face. Thank you. I needed to hear that. Live well, Anna. Live for all the Marcuses in the world who didn't get saved. Make his death mean something. I will. I promise. When she hung up, Marco was tactfully studying the takeout containers, giving her privacy. Valeria had entered during the call and stood quietly by the door. "You okay?" Valeria asked. "Yeah," Anna wiped her eyes. "Better than okay, actually." They ate dinner together. The homeless nurse who'd found her purpose, the Mafia princess learning to use her privilege for good, and the bodyguard who discovered that protection could mean more than violence. Outside, the clinic's lights shone into the darkness of a neighborhood that had too few bright spots. Inside, three unlikely allies who'd been brought together by poison and desperation had built something that actually healed. Don Aurelio kept his promise. Mercy General Hospital thrived without his interference, using their restored funding to save countless lives. Casaro died in prison 2 years later, alone and forgotten. The Alchemist's cooperation led to the shutdown of 3 other illegal bioweapons operations. And Ana Reyes, who'd lost everything and been given one impossible chance, proved that redemption wasn't about grand gestures or dramatic transformations. It was about showing up every day, doing the work, helping one person at a time. 3 years on the streets had taught her survival. One desperate night had taught her purpose. And every day since had taught her that sometimes the best revenge against a cruel world was simply refusing to let it make you cruel too. The Marcus Chan Memorial Clinic treated its 100,000th patient 3 years after opening. Anna was there for every single one. She never slept on the streets again. And she never forgot what it felt like to be invisible, which made her see everyone else more clearly. In the end, a mafia boss's daughter lived because a street woman refused to accept that some lives weren't worth saving. And an entire community became healthier because 2 women from opposite worlds decided that privilege and poverty didn't have to be permanent states, that people could change, could grow, could choose to be better than their circumstances demanded. The poison that nearly killed Valeria Moretti ended up healing more than just one life. It healed an entire neighborhood. And 2 souls who desperately needed redemption.